Gen Z is losing sleep over money. A new study shows that 70% of young adults lie awake at night consumed by financial anxiety. Before we continue, please subscribe, hit a like button, or leave a comment below. Thank you. Across America, the glow of phone screens fills bedrooms long after midnight. Gen Z, the youngest generation in the workforce, is wide awake. Instead of resting, they are scrolling, worrying, or staring at the ceiling. They are haunted not by school assignments or relationship drama, but by bills, rent, and a job market that feels unstable. A recent AmeriSleep survey found that nearly half of Americans are losing sleep over financial stress, but Gen Z is hit the hardest. For them, money worries are not a passing concern. They are a nightly battle. 7 out of 10 Gen Z adults report lying awake at night because of money. That is nearly 3/4 of an entire generation too anxious to close their eyes. The reasons are familiar: rising prices at the grocery store, student loan debt, stagnant wages, and the terrifying cost of rent in major cities. While inflation numbers dominate headlines, these statistics translate into sleepless nights for millions of young people who feel like the American dream is slipping further away each year. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has admitted that Gen Z graduates are entering one of the toughest job markets in recent memory. Inflation remains high, unemployment is creeping upward, and housing is increasingly out of reach. Many young workers are juggling part-time gigs or contract work with little security. The instability gnaws at them, creating an invisible pressure that follows them from work to bed. By the time they lie down, their brains refuse to shut off. Their sleep cycles are broken by racing thoughts of overdraft fees, rising rent, or the fear of getting laid off. The lack of sleep takes a heavy emotional toll. Young people describe waking up in the middle of the night with their hearts pounding, convinced that they are failing financially before they have even begun their adult lives. Some text friends at 2 a.m., only to find that they too are awake, spiraling over the same worries. The shared struggle has become a hidden part of Gen Z culture. Private group chats filled with confessions of sleeplessness, anxiety memes spreading online, and a sense that money stress is an unavoidable part of growing up. By the end of the night, many Gen Zers give up on sleep entirely. The stress is too heavy, the silence too loud. Some pull up Netflix to distract themselves. Others reach for TikTok, scrolling endlessly until exhaustion finally wins. A smaller number admit to simply lying in bed for hours, unable to move, a phenomenon now labeled bed rotting. This is how the story begins, with a generation lying awake, trapped between anxiety and exhaustion, searching for relief in the glow of their screens instead of in the safety of sleep. When the pressure becomes unbearable, Gen Z reaches for comfort in ways that feel natural but ultimately unhelpful. Instead of sitting down with a notebook to create a budget or planning an emergency fund, many decide to retreat. They burrow deeper under blankets, headphones in, screens glowing, trying to block out the noise of their thoughts. Avoidance is easier than confronting the reality of bank accounts and overdue bills. For a generation overwhelmed by constant bad news, distraction becomes survival. One coping method has even earned its own cultural label: bed rotting. It is the act of staying in bed for hours, sometimes the entire day, without the energy or desire to do anything productive. Bed rotting is not simply resting. It is scrolling through TikTok endlessly, binge-watching shows, or staring blankly at the ceiling while the clock ticks on. Surveys show that nearly 1 in 3 Gen Zers admit to this habit when financial anxiety spikes. Some even share their experiences online, turning bed rotting into a strange badge of shared struggle. Alongside bed rotting is the dark ritual of doom scrolling. Instead of avoiding stress, young people dive headfirst into it by scrolling through endless feeds of bad news. They check rising rent prices on Reddit, inflation charts on Instagram, or economic rants on Twitter. Each post fuels the anxiety further, but the cycle is addictive. The blue glow of phones burns late into the night, leaving them exhausted but unable to stop. Experts say doom scrolling offers a false sense of control. If you know the bad news first, maybe it will hurt less. In reality, it deepens the spiral. Others escape by immersing themselves in television, video games, or streaming platforms. Late-night binge sessions replace healthy sleep cycles. Entire seasons of reality shows are consumed in one sitting just to push money thoughts out of the mind. Some report playing video games until dawn because it allows them to inhabit a different reality, one without rent or debt. Screens provide a quick dopamine hit, a shot of comfort in the middle of the storm. Yet when the sun rises, the problems remain. The cycle repeats night after night, with energy drained and solutions left untouched. Psychologists explain that these coping methods are not laziness, but protective responses to overwhelming stress. When life feels out of control, the brain craves easy comfort. Bed rotting, doom scrolling, and TV binges deliver that comfort instantly, even if they solve nothing. For Gen Z, these habits are both a relief and a trap. They keep financial anxiety at bay for a moment, but reinforce the feeling of being stuck, powerless, and tired. This stage of the story shows how a generation is caught in the loop of avoiding problems while sinking deeper into exhaustion, setting up the bigger picture of the economic forces crushing them. Gen Z did not step into adulthood in stable times. Many graduated during or right after the pandemic, when job markets were shaky and industries unstable. Just as recovery began, inflation surged, hitting rent, groceries, and transportation hardest. The cost of living grew faster than entry-level wages, leaving many young workers feeling cheated. Unlike older generations, Gen Z faced an uphill battle before their careers even began, and that weight shows up at night when they try to rest. Inflation is not just an abstract economic term for this generation. It is the reason groceries cost double what they used to. It is the reason gas prices eat into already tight paychecks. It is why restaurant meals and coffee shop visits feel like luxuries instead of everyday habits. For those just starting out, small increases feel like mountains. Rent, especially in urban areas, consumes a shocking portion of their income. Some young adults admit they spend over half of their monthly paycheck just keeping a roof over their heads. By the time they calculate bills, loan payments, and transportation, there is almost nothing left to save. On top of inflation, Gen Z is weighed down by debt. Student loans hang over millions of young workers, with interest rates rising and forgiveness plans constantly under political debate. Credit card debt has also surged as many turn to plastic to cover basic expenses. The result is a generation starting adult life already in the red. Unlike their parents, who may have saved early for homes or retirement, many Gen Zers are simply trying to keep accounts from slipping into overdraft. The cycle of debt fuels the very insomnia that drives them to bed rotting and doom scrolling. Employment is another factor driving stress. While unemployment numbers rise nationally, even those with jobs face instability. Many Gen Z workers are stuck in part-time or contract gigs without health insurance or retirement benefits. Others work multiple jobs just to stay afloat. The dream of climbing a career ladder feels unreachable when the ladder itself seems unstable. Instead of building security, they feel they are running in place, always one paycheck away from crisis. This insecurity creeps into their nights, turning sleep into another battleground. Experts note that the psychological impact of this economic storm is profound. When people feel powerless against financial forces larger than themselves, avoidance becomes a natural defense. Bed rotting, doom scrolling, and binge watching are not signs of laziness, but symptoms of a generation cornered by circumstances. Gen Z knows budgeting apps exist. They know financial advice fills TikTok feeds. Yet advice cannot fix inflation, debt, or unstable wages. The feeling of being trapped feeds the cycle. Stress leads to insomnia. Insomnia leads to avoidance, and avoidance deepens the stress. The weight of the economy has turned into the weight of sleepless nights. Psychologists and financial advisors agree on one central point. Ignoring financial stress only magnifies it. Bed rotting, doom scrolling, and binge watching offer quick relief but delay the confrontation that could actually reduce anxiety. Experts emphasize that the brain craves resolution, not endless distraction. To break the cycle, they recommend intentional practices that face the anxiety without letting it spiral out of control. The first step is to acknowledge the stress and channel it into manageable actions instead of pushing it away until 2 a.m. One of the most practical tools is the worry window. Instead of allowing money fears to invade the night, individuals are encouraged to set aside 15 to 20 minutes earlier in the day. During this time, they write down their financial concerns along with potential solutions, no matter how small. The act of putting worries on paper helps signal to the brain that they have been addressed. Later, when the same thoughts try to resurface at midnight, the individual can remind themselves that the problem has already been noted and planned for. This technique is simple but has proven effective in reducing nighttime anxiety. For those glued to screens, experts recommend creating a phone curfew. At least 1 hour before sleep, all devices should be placed in another room. This reduces the temptation to refresh feeds that only amplify stress. Without constant notifications and glowing screens, the mind has a chance to slow down. Replacing this time with calming activities is crucial. Journaling, stretching, meditation, or reading a physical book can help redirect restless energy. These habits provide the body with cues that it is safe to rest, instead of signaling danger through endless bad news. Beyond managing sleep habits, financial advisors stress the importance of taking small but consistent steps toward control. Building an emergency fund, even with just a few dollars a week, can create a psychological buffer. Paying off one small debt at a time provides a sense of momentum and progress. Tracking income and expenses for just 1 month can eliminate the fear of the unknown, replacing it with knowledge. Advisors argue that knowledge itself reduces anxiety because uncertainty is often more frightening than reality. Small wins matter more than dramatic changes, especially for a generation overwhelmed by big problems. Experts also encourage a shift in perspective. Instead of viewing money as an impossible mountain, they suggest reframing it as a series of steps. Each action, saving, budgeting, or paying off a bill, becomes part of a larger journey. This reframing helps Gen Z feel empowered rather than defeated. Sleep specialists warn that stress will never disappear completely, but creating systems of control during the day can restore peace at night. The message is clear. While bed rotting and doom scrolling provide temporary comfort, deliberate routines and small financial steps can create lasting resilience. As weeks turn into months, the habits of bed rotting, doom scrolling, and late-night streaming risk becoming permanent lifestyle patterns. If Gen Z does not find ways to confront their financial anxiety, they may continue to sacrifice sleep, health, and long-term stability. Chronic insomnia leads to fatigue, lower productivity, and even worsening mental health. The same cycle that begins with financial stress could end up making financial struggles worse, as exhaustion affects work performance and decision-making. Experts warn that unchecked anxiety today can snowball into deeper crises tomorrow. Avoidance offers comfort in the short term, but compounds risk in the long term. Ignoring bills can lead to late fees. Refusing to budget can create mounting debt. Escaping into screens leaves no space for problem solving. A generation that prides itself on awareness of social issues may struggle when it comes to personal financial awareness. If avoidance continues, Gen Z may enter their 30s already weighed down by poor credit, unstable housing, and minimal savings. For many, the fear is not just about sleepless nights, but about whether they will ever feel financially secure. Yet the story is not only bleak. Within the same surveys showing high levels of stress, researchers also see signs of resilience. Many Gen Zers are open to new ideas, willing to try budgeting apps, financial literacy courses, or group discussions about money. Unlike past generations, they are comfortable sharing struggles publicly, reducing the stigma around financial anxiety. This openness creates opportunities for collective solutions. Social media, the same tool that fuels doom scrolling, can also spread financial education, support networks, and examples of small victories. Experts insist that big transformations are not necessary to create change. Saving a small emergency cushion, paying off a single debt, or even writing down expenses for 1 month can spark confidence. When people take control of one aspect of their finances, their anxiety often decreases across the board. Gen Z does not need to conquer the entire economy to sleep better. They need to reclaim small parts of their financial lives. Sleep improves when the brain believes progress is being made. Hope grows when small wins replace endless fear. The story of Gen Z's sleepless nights is still unfolding. The future will depend on whether the generation continues to hide from financial fears or learns to confront them head-on. If avoidance continues, insomnia, and exhaustion may become defining traits of their early adulthood. If they embrace small steps and practical strategies, they may redefine resilience in a difficult economy. Either way, the anxiety over money is not just a personal issue. It is a generational challenge that reflects the state of the modern economy. For now, the glow of phones will keep lighting up dark bedrooms. But the question remains, will Gen Z stay trapped in cycles of bed rotting and doom scrolling? Or will they find the strength to rise, take control, and finally sleep soundly? This is the end of that story. Now tell me in the comments, what's your story? I'll read out the most interesting ones in the next video. Do not forget to hit a like button and subscribe. See you. In the forests of Uganda and Côte d'Ivoire, scientists uncovered a wild secret. Chimpanzees eat figs and plums that naturally ferment, giving them the equivalent of 2 cocktails a day. This study from UC Berkeley and partners confirms the long-debated drunken monkey hypothesis. Deep in the tropical forests of Uganda and Côte d'Ivoire, researchers noticed something peculiar about wild chimpanzees. Every day, chimps crowded into the highest branches of fig trees or gathered on the forest floor around plum-like fruit. It was not unusual for them to eat fruit, but what stood out was their behavior. They seemed unusually fixated on certain ripe, soft fruits that carried a distinct sweet and fermented smell. Locals who lived near the forest often joked that the animals looked a little tipsy after long feasts, and some even claimed to have seen chimps stumble or rest in odd positions afterward. Scientists from UC Berkeley and collaborating institutions wondered whether there was any truth to the idea. Could these wild primates actually be consuming alcohol every single day without anyone realizing it? If so, how much alcohol were they really taking in? The mystery grew when the team realized that ripe tropical fruits often ferment naturally due to yeast living on their skins. That fermentation produces ethanol, the same type of alcohol found in beer, wine, and spirits. To solve the mystery, researchers decided to test the fruits the chimps ate most often. But turning this idea into a scientific study was not simple. The forest is a difficult laboratory. Instruments needed to measure alcohol content are sensitive and fragile. But in Uganda and Côte d'Ivoire, humidity was relentless. Electronic equipment corroded quickly. Power sources were unreliable, so researchers relied on small solar panels just to keep their tools working. Carrying supplies through dense jungle terrain was exhausting. Yet over 3 long research seasons, the team hauled their equipment from site to site, carefully collecting fruit samples from the exact trees and groves the chimps were eating. Each piece of fruit had to be tested quickly before it spoiled in the tropical heat. Researchers calibrated their test kits on site, sometimes under tarps stretched between trees to shield them from sudden rain. It was a battle of patience and precision. For every handful of figs or plums eaten by chimps, samples were weighed, measured, and analyzed. What looked to locals like ordinary fruit turned out to be chemically fascinating. Slowly, the researchers began to piece together a picture of just how much alcohol was naturally present in the chimps' daily diet. By the end of the first phase of their research, the team had gathered an enormous dataset of fruit samples, each tied to observations of chimp feeding behavior. The initial numbers suggested something remarkable. The fruit was not only ripe and sugary, but consistently contained measurable amounts of ethanol. What began as a strange rumor of drunken animals was about to become a serious scientific finding. The chimps were not binging like partygoers, but their daily diet contained enough alcohol to raise profound questions about evolution, biology, and even the roots of human drinking culture. After 3 seasons of testing, the scientists finally had solid numbers. On average, the fruit favored by chimps contained 0.3% alcohol by weight. That might sound tiny, barely stronger than kombucha or slightly fizzy apple juice, but numbers can be deceiving. Chimps do not eat just 1 or 2 pieces of fruit. A healthy adult chimp can easily devour 10 pounds of fruit in a single day. Multiply that intake by the alcohol concentration, and suddenly the picture shifts. These wild animals were consistently ingesting measurable amounts of ethanol without even realizing it. To make sense of the data, researchers compared chimp consumption to human drinking. Chimps usually weigh around 90 pounds, and at their typical intake levels, they were absorbing roughly 14 grams of ethanol every day. For humans, That is the equivalent of drinking 2 cocktails daily. Imagine someone sitting down each evening to a couple of gin and tonics or margaritas. For chimps, this routine was not occasional. It was simply part of their everyday diet. Of course, the image of tipsy chimps swaying in the trees is more cartoon than science. To actually reach a drunken state, chimps would have to gorge on an absurd amount of fermented fruit, stuffing themselves until their bellies ballooned uncomfortably. The alcohol present in their diet is delivered in small, steady amounts rather than in binges. Instead of drunken escapades, what chimps experience is a mild, constant exposure to ethanol, almost like a natural background buzz from their food supply. This steady intake is important. Low doses of alcohol affect metabolism and digestion in subtle ways. For chimps, ethanol could act as a mild stimulant, encouraging them to eat more and process calories faster. It may even help them identify the ripest fruit, since ethanol signals fermentation and sugar content. Researchers suggested that alcohol acts almost like a beacon, guiding chimps toward the most energy-rich food. Unlike humans, who often consume alcohol for social or recreational reasons, chimps are simply following their instincts to survive. When the numbers were first crunched, even the scientists were stunned. They expected to find traces of ethanol, but not amounts equivalent to 2 cocktails per day. Some even questioned whether the findings were accurate until repeated tests confirmed the results. The realization sparked excitement and controversy in equal measure. Were chimps deliberately seeking out boozy fruit, or was this all just an accidental side effect of evolution? The discovery set the stage for the next big idea, the theory that alcohol consumption among primates is no accident but part of a much deeper evolutionary story. Back in the year 2000, UC Berkeley professor Robert Dudley introduced what he called the drunken monkey hypothesis. His theory was bold and simple. Humans' love for alcohol is not a cultural accident, but an evolutionary inheritance. According to Dudley, our ancestors were fruit eaters, just like today's chimps. Wherever there were ripe fruits, there was fermentation, and wherever there was fermentation, there was ethanol. Over time, primates may have evolved not only tolerance for this substance, but also a strong attraction to it. The idea gained traction because ethanol carries a powerful message in nature. Fermented fruit tends to be rich in sugar and calories, exactly what primates seek for survival. In a forest full of plants, the faint scent of ethanol could guide an animal toward food that is energy-dense and ready to eat. Instead of being a dangerous toxin, alcohol in small doses became a helpful signal. Dudley argued that primates with a natural attraction to ethanol may have been better at finding ripe fruit, giving them a survival advantage. If this attraction shaped primate evolution, then it could also explain human behavior today. Why do humans around the world brew beer, ferment grapes into wine, or distill spirits? Why does alcohol play such a strong role in celebration, ritual, and daily life? Dudley suggested the answer lies in our evolutionary past. We are, in a sense, drunken monkeys ourselves, descendants of fruit-loving ancestors whose biology wired us to enjoy ethanol long before the first human discovered fermentation intentionally. Dudley often explained the connection in simple terms. Once you start eating, alcohol acts as an aperitif, he said. In other words, it stimulates appetite and encourages continued feeding. For chimps, this might mean eating more figs and plums. For humans, it might mean finishing a meal with a glass of wine or enjoying a beer before dinner. The same biological mechanism could be at work in both species, showing that our cultural habits are rooted in something far older than civilization. The drunken monkey hypothesis is not just about chimps or about science in the lab. It resonates because it touches something universal. Every culture on Earth has some form of alcohol. Whether it is rice wine in Asia, palm wine in Africa, mead in Europe, or beer in the Americas, humans have always found ways to ferment sugars into ethanol. Dudley's idea ties all of this back to a single evolutionary thread. We inherited the taste for alcohol from our fruit-eating ancestors. The chimps in Uganda and Côte d'Ivoire are not just eating fruit. They are living evidence of the very same story that shaped us. Chimpanzees are not alone in their quiet relationship with alcohol. Across the globe, scientists have recorded dozens of animals taking advantage of naturally fermented food and drink. What begins with fruit fermenting on the ground or in the canopy often turns into a natural bar, where creatures of all shapes and sizes line up for a taste. The attraction seems universal. Where there is sugar turning into alcohol, animals are not far behind. Perhaps the most famous story comes from Africa, where elephants have been observed eating fermented marula fruits. Local legends tell of elephants swaying side to side after these feasts, their enormous bodies unsteady, their behavior unusually playful. Scientists debate whether the animals are truly intoxicated or simply overstuffed with fruit, but the fascination remains. Elephants, weighing several tons, would need to consume an enormous amount of ethanol to become fully drunk, yet the attraction to marula fruit persists. It mirrors the same evolutionary signal found in chimps. Fermented fruit means calories. In Panama, spider monkeys have been caught eating large quantities of naturally fermented palm fruit. Researchers have even documented measurable alcohol levels in their urine after feeding. In Southeast Asia, slow lorises sip nectar that ferments inside flowers, exposing them to steady doses of ethanol. Lemurs in Madagascar have been filmed deliberately choosing fruits that have started to ferment, their noses guiding them toward the faint scent of alcohol. All of these behaviors echo the same pattern. Fruit-eating primates have learned to follow ethanol like a compass pointing toward food. Even tiny animals are drawn to alcohol. Fruit flies are perhaps the most obvious example. Open a beer outside, and almost instantly a fruit fly appears, homing in on the ethanol vapors with incredible precision. For them, alcohol is not just a drink, but a signal of their preferred habitat. Birds too have been seen feeding on fermented berries, sometimes with consequences. In northern climates, waxwings and robins occasionally consume so many fermented berries that they appear disoriented, flying into windows or stumbling on the ground. These incidents highlight that nature's relationship with alcohol spans from the tiniest insect to the largest mammal. What unites all these stories is the same theme. Ethanol is more than just a chemical. It is a biological signal, one that crosses species and continents. From elephants in Africa to monkeys in the Americas, from insects buzzing over beer to birds pecking at fermented berries, countless creatures are drawn to alcohol in one form or another. Chimpanzees are simply the latest reminder that humans are not unique in this attraction. We are part of a larger natural story, one where alcohol is written into the diets and instincts of animals everywhere. After the long days in the forest, after all the fruit samples and careful measurements, scientists were left with a simple but profound question. Were the chimpanzees deliberately seeking out fruit because of its alcohol content, or were they just after sugar and calories, with alcohol being an accidental bonus? The study could not prove intention, but it made one fact clear. Day after day, chimps are consuming measurable amounts of ethanol, enough to match what a human would get from 2 cocktails. That cannot be dismissed as coincidence. Robert Dudley and his colleagues believe this finding sheds light on human behavior. Why do humans all over the world seem so drawn to alcohol? From rice wine in Asia to beer in Europe, from palm wine in Africa to mead in ancient cultures, alcohol is nearly universal. The answer may be rooted not in culture, but in biology. Just like chimps, our ancestors relied on fruit. Just like chimps, they learned to associate the scent and taste of ethanol with ripe, energy-rich food. Over time, that preference carried forward into human societies. Even though modern humans no longer depend on foraging for figs or plums, the biological wiring still remains. Dudley argues that once alcohol is present, the urge to consume quickly is built in. This evolutionary bias may explain why alcohol can be both pleasurable and dangerous for humans. It is not just a social activity, but a deep-rooted instinct that once helped our ancestors survive. The drunken monkey is not a metaphor. It is a biological truth written into our shared history with other primates. The chimpanzee study also serves as a warning. Small, steady doses of alcohol are harmless for chimps and possibly even beneficial, stimulating feeding and guiding them to ripe fruit. But for humans, with access to distilled beverages and unlimited supplies, the evolutionary bias can turn against us. What once was a helpful signal in the forest can become a temptation in the city. Dudley and other researchers suggest that understanding this connection may help us rethink our relationship with alcohol today. In the end, The story of boozy chimps is more than a curiosity. It is a reminder of how deeply connected humans remain to the natural world. From forests in Africa to bars in New York, alcohol links us to our primate relatives in surprising ways. The chimps of Uganda and Côte d'Ivoire are not party animals swinging drunkenly from the trees, but their steady exposure to ethanol reveals a truth about ourselves. We are all part of an ancient lineage of fruit eaters, shaped by the same evolutionary forces, carrying the same taste for alcohol that began in the canopy of the forest millions of years ago. This is the end of that story. Now tell me in the comments, what's your most unbelievable story? I'll read out the funniest ones in the next video. Do not forget to hit a like button and subscribe. See you. A father's worry turned into an internet storm. From Xiantao to Wuhan, a pinky promise between dad and daughter became one of the most talked about parenting stories in China. Before we continue, please subscribe, hit a like button, or leave a comment below. Thank you. It is the last evening before the daughter leaves for Wuhan Donghu College, and the family's apartment feels both warm and tense. Her suitcases are packed and lined against the wall, bulging with clothes, notebooks, and snacks her mother insisted she bring. Outside the window, the street lamps flicker over the quiet neighborhood of Xiantao, a small city where neighbors all know each other. Inside, her father, Chao Qianhong, sits silently at the dinner table, staring at her. She is glued to her phone, chatting with friends, her face lit by the screen. For her, tomorrow feels like freedom and adventure. For him, tomorrow feels like loss and risk. He knows Wuhan is a big, busy city, full of strangers, noise, and temptations. She has never lived alone before, and the thought of her walking those crowded streets without him terrifies him. Chao's thoughts run wild as he remembers moments from the past. He recalls calling her phone late at night, only for the calls to go unanswered. He remembers times when the only message he received from her was a short request for money. To him, it felt like she was drifting away, already pulling out of the orbit of their family. Now, with her about to move nearly 100 kilometers away, he fears that she will completely forget about him. What if she gets sick and does not tell anyone? What if she feels lonely and hides it? What if she faces danger in a new city and he has no idea where she is? His fear is not just about safety. It is about losing that fragile bond between father and daughter. He wants her to grow independent, but he cannot bear the thought of her slipping away into silence. After dinner, with everyone gathered in the small living room, Chao finally speaks up. His tone is serious, his eyes fixed on his daughter. He tells her he has thought of a plan, a way to make sure she stays in touch, while also helping with her daily expenses. He explains that he will transfer her 500 yuan 3 times a month to cover food, books, and personal needs. But at the end of the month, she will receive an additional 500 yuan only if she sends him at least one message every day. It does not have to be long, he says. It can be a picture, a short video, even a single punctuation mark. What matters is that she shows she is safe and remembers her family. The room falls silent as he outlines his unusual rule. For him, it is an act of love disguised as an agreement. For her, it sounds strange, almost like a contract between a parent and child. The daughter looks at her father with wide eyes, half amused, half surprised. At first, she lets out a small laugh, thinking he might be joking. She has seen friends post online about strict parents, but this feels different. He is not shouting, not scolding, not forbidding her from going out. Instead, he is offering money for messages. Then she notices the seriousness in his face. His voice has a tremor, his hands clasped together nervously. This is not about control, she realizes. This is about fear and love. She hesitates. Part of her does not want to feel pressured to report daily. Yet she knows her father is not asking for essays or calls, just a simple signal that she is okay. Slowly, she nods her head in agreement. Her smile returns, soft and genuine this time. The tension in the room eases, and Chao exhales as though a heavy weight has lifted. To seal the deal, Chao holds out his hand and raises his pinky finger. It is a gesture rooted in childhood, a pinky promise, a sign that once made cannot be broken. She giggles and extends her finger too, linking it with his. Together they pull tight, father and daughter bound by an invisible thread of love and trust. Her mother wipes a tear from her eye, knowing this is more than just an agreement. It is a father's desperate attempt to remain connected to his only child as she steps into adulthood. Later, Chow records a short video of the moment, intending to keep it as a memory. That video will soon go viral online, sparking debates about parenting, control, and love. But in this moment, in their small living room, it is simply a promise. A father is asking his daughter to stay in touch. A daughter is assuring her father that she will not disappear into the silence of a new city. The next morning, the family drives the long road from Xiantao to Wuhan. The daughter gazes out of the car window as the city skyline grows larger, filled with glass towers, crowded intersections, and a hum of activity that feels overwhelming. For her father, every tall building feels like a wall pulling her further away. He carries her bags across the busy campus, sweating under the weight, but he does not complain. At the entrance to her dormitory, students hurry by with their parents, laughter and nervous chatter filling the air. He sets down the bags, takes a deep breath, and realizes that this will be the first time in 18 years that she will sleep outside their home. The dorm room is small, with 4 bunks, peeling paint on the walls, and the faint smell of disinfectant. Other parents are helping their children unpack, but Chow is focused only on his daughter. He helps fold her clothes into the closet, sets her pillow on the bed, and arranges the small kettle he bought her on the desk. His eyes water as he tells her to boil water for noodles, to lock the door at night, and to call if anything feels strange. His daughter rolls her eyes but hugs him quickly, embarrassed in front of the new roommates. For her, this is the start of independence. For him, it feels like letting go of half his soul. When he finally turns to leave, he lingers at the door, staring one last time before stepping into the hallway. That evening, back in Xiantao, Chow sits by his phone waiting for the first daily message. The apartment feels strangely quiet without her presence. Hours pass, and no notification arrives. He stares at the phone, fighting the urge to call. Finally, just before midnight, a message pops up. A blurry photo of her dorm bed with the caption, "All good." His heart leaps with relief, even though it is only 2 words. He transfers the first 500 yuan as promised, smiling at the screen. To her, it is just a quick text. To him, it is a lifeline. Over the next few days, the messages start to come more regularly. Sometimes it is a picture of the cafeteria food, sometimes a short video of the campus at night, sometimes just a single emoji. Her father saves every message in a special folder on his phone, as though they are precious jewels. He tells neighbors proudly that his daughter is responsible and checks in every day. Yet in private, he worries about how brief the messages are. He wants to hear her voice, to know her feelings, to sense her struggles. But he reminds himself that at least she is contacting him. For now, that is enough. One evening, Chow records himself explaining the arrangement. He speaks to the camera with a mix of pride and vulnerability, describing how he pays his daughter to message him daily so he knows she is safe. He uploads the video to a popular Chinese platform, never expecting more than a few views. Overnight, the clip explodes, gathering thousands of comments. Some call him overprotective. Some say he is turning love into a transaction, while others admire his devotion as a father. Strangers begin debating his parenting style across the internet. But for Chow, none of the noise matters. What matters is that every night, no matter how tired or distracted his daughter might be, she sends him that one message, and he can finally close his eyes and sleep. By the time a week passes, Chow's video is no longer just a small clip. It has gone viral, shared across multiple platforms, sparking heated debates. On one side are parents who understand his fear. They comment that they also call their children constantly, and some admit they would gladly pay for daily reassurance. On the other side are critics who argue that he is smothering his daughter and buying love with money. Some users even accuse him of raising her to be dependent rather than strong. The internet becomes divided, and every new comment adds fuel to the fire. In her dormitory, the daughter discovers the video through classmates who tease her gently about her contract with her dad. At first, she feels embarrassed. She did not expect their private pinky promise to become a public topic. Her roommates laugh, saying they wish their own parents would pay them to text. She shrugs it off, but deep down, she wonders if her father has gone too far by sharing their story. Later that evening, she sends him a message, asking him why he made the video public. He replies with a simple explanation. He wanted to share his idea with other parents who worry the same way. His honesty softens her anger, but she still feels torn between pride and embarrassment. Television programs and news outlets quickly pick up the story. On Hubei TV, an education professor, Yi Xinfa, criticizes Chao's method, saying that true independence cannot be taught through money. He argues that by paying his daughter, Chao is turning communication into a job rather than an act of love. Psychologists join the discussion, some warning that financial incentives may distort family bonds. Yet others defend him, saying his idea is harmless if it helps both father and daughter feel secure. The debate spreads into classrooms, talk shows, and family dinner tables, with everyone offering their own opinion on whether Chao is a loving father or an overbearing one. Chao watches all this coverage with mixed emotions. At first, he feels proud that his story has reached so many people. But as the criticism grows, he feels misunderstood. In an interview, he explains that he never wanted to control his daughter. He just wanted her to remember to check in, to let him know she was safe in a new city where dangers can appear in unexpected ways. He says the money is not a bribe, but a symbolic reminder, a way to build a routine. His sincerity shows through, and some viewers begin to sympathize with him again, seeing him not as controlling, but as a father grasping at a fragile connection with his only child. Back in Wuhan, the daughter lies in her dorm bed scrolling through the heated debates online. She sees strangers arguing about her life, her relationship with her father, even her personality. For the first time, she begins to see things from her father's perspective. She imagines how quiet the apartment must feel without her. She pictures him sitting at the dinner table, staring at his phone, waiting for her message. Suddenly, what once felt like a silly deal now feels like a lifeline. That night, instead of sending just a single emoji, she writes him a full message about her day, describing her classes, her new friends, and even the cafeteria food. When he replies with a long string of happy emojis, she smiles. For the first time, the agreement feels less like an obligation and more like a bridge between two worlds. Back in Xiantao, neighbors begin talking about Chao's unusual arrangement. Some praise him, saying he is a thoughtful father who cares about his daughter's well-being in a dangerous world. Others criticize him behind his back, whispering that he is spoiling her, paying her to do something she should do out of love. At a tea shop one morning, a friend even tells Chao that he is buying affection. Chao smiles politely but feels a sting in his heart. He wonders if he has made a mistake, yet when his phone vibrates with a cheerful message from his daughter, his doubts vanish instantly. Meanwhile, at college, his daughter starts to feel the weight of constant contact. She tells him one evening that sometimes she just wants to live her life without thinking about whether she has messaged him yet. Her tone is not harsh, but it is honest. She worries that her friends will think she is childish, reporting to her father daily, as if she were still in middle school. For the first time, she questions whether this promise is helping her grow or holding her back. Chao listens quietly, his heart heavy, but he tells her he understands. He reminds her that she can always message him freely, without the money, but he just wants to know she is safe. One night, the daughter calls instead of texting. Her voice cracks slightly as she admits that she sometimes feels lonely at the university. The city is overwhelming, the classes are difficult, and making friends is harder than she expected. Chao listens silently, his eyes filling with tears, realizing that his fears were not unfounded. She truly is vulnerable in this new environment. He reassures her that she is stronger than she thinks, that he believes in her, and that she will find her place. This call becomes a turning point, transforming their agreement from a simple transactional deal into a genuine conversation about love and support. The story continues to grow online, and reporters even attempt to contact the daughter directly at her university. Some portray her as spoiled, others as a victim of controlling parenting. Headlines swirl with judgment, and she becomes frustrated at being turned into a symbol rather than a real person. She vents to her father about the stress, but he reminds her to ignore the noise. He tells her that strangers will always have opinions, but only she and her family know the truth of their bond. His calm voice grounds her, and she realizes that his love, though unconventional, is genuine and protective. As days pass, both father and daughter adjust their expectations. She still sends him daily messages, but now they are more meaningful. She shares small victories, like finishing a tough assignment, or moments of joy, like laughing with new friends. He replies with encouragement, sometimes with practical advice, sometimes with heartfelt words of pride. The money becomes secondary, almost irrelevant, as their communication develops into something natural. The pinky promise that began as an unusual deal now evolves into a shared ritual of love and connection. For the first time since she left home, both of them feel at peace with the distance between them. A month passes, and Xiao decides to make the 100-kilometer trip to Wuhan to visit his daughter. He loads his small car with homemade food, warm clothes, and a new thermos. The campus is alive with students walking to class, and he spots her across the courtyard, waving shyly at him. She looks more confident, more grown, but when she hugs him, he feels she is still his little girl. They sit in the cafeteria, sharing noodles, and she tells him about her classes and friends. For the first time, he sees her adapting and thriving, and his worry begins to ease. Over lunch, she brings up the deal. She admits that at first, she thought it was silly and embarrassing, but now she sees it differently. The daily messages gave her a reason to pause and reflect, even on difficult days. Still, she insists that she no longer needs the extra 500 yuan as motivation. She says she will message him because she wants to, not because of money. Xiao listens carefully, nodding with pride. His heart swells as he realizes that she has truly matured. That evening, back in his hotel room, Xiao reflects on the journey. The pinky promise, the debates online, the criticism, the support, and the tears, it all comes together in his mind. He realizes he never cared about the arguments of strangers. What mattered was building a bridge between him and his daughter at a time when distance threatened to break their bond. He writes in a small notebook that his wife gave him years ago, "She is grown, but she is still mine. And as long as she messages me, I will know she is safe." Back in her dorm that night, the daughter also reflects. She thinks about her father's long drive, the food he brought, and the way his eyes lit up when she talked about her friends. She realizes that his fear came not from control, but from love. She opens her phone and sends him a long message. "Dad, thank you for everything. I promise I will keep texting you. Not for the money, but because I want you to know I am okay, and I want to know you are okay too." When Xiao reads it, he cannot stop the tears from falling. The story that began with an unusual deal evolves into something more powerful than either of them expected. The father no longer worries about silence, and the daughter no longer sees his request as a burden. Their bond has grown stronger, built on honesty and care rather than obligation. Online, people continue to debate, but for them, the pinky promise has already served its purpose. In the end, it is not about money or rules. It is about love that finds its own way to survive the distance between parent and child. This is the end of that story. Now tell me in the comments, what's your story? I'll read out the most interesting ones in the next video. Do not forget to hit a like button and subscribe. See you. Why do most traders lose money in the stock market? This video breaks down the 5 biggest mistakes that cost beginners and even experienced traders their success. Before we continue, please subscribe, hit a like button, or leave a comment below. Thank you. The journey begins with the promise of quick wealth. Picture the flashy advertisements on social media, charts exploding upward, influencers boasting of doubling their accounts overnight, and friends whispering about easy wins. For newcomers, the stock market looks like a golden ticket. They open a trading app, see the prices moving, and believe that with just a few taps, profits will come rolling in. What they rarely realize is that behind every winning story, there are dozens of losses that no one shares. The first mistake reveals itself almost immediately: lack of a defined strategy. Many traders rush in without writing down a plan. They buy a stock because it is trending on Twitter or because a colleague mentioned it over coffee. Entry and exit points are undefined, risk limits are ignored, and profit targets do not exist. Without a clear map, they wander blindly through a stormy market, reacting to every swing in price instead of following a structured path. Statistics underline this harsh reality. Research shows that more than 80% of day traders quit within their first 2 years. Why? Because without a plan, the market feels like a casino. Every decision is emotional, every win feels like luck, and every loss feels personal. A defined strategy is not just about numbers, it provides psychological stability. Traders without it experience the wild roller coaster of joy and despair until they finally give up. Imagine a rookie trader buying a stock at random, watching it go up for 10 minutes, and selling for a tiny profit. They celebrate as if they cracked the code. Emboldened, they place another trade, but this time the stock drops. Panic sets in. Should they hold? Should they sell? With no plan to guide them, emotions dictate their next move, often locking in losses or chasing rebounds that never arrive. It is not discipline guiding them, but adrenaline, and adrenaline is a poor teacher in financial markets. This is why the illusion of easy money is so dangerous. The excitement of quick profits masks the truth that the stock market is unforgiving to those without preparation. A trading plan is like armor. Without it, every market move becomes a sword strike against unprotected emotions. By the end of this first stage, the lesson is clear. Without a defined strategy, a trader is not investing. They are gambling, and in the long run, the house always wins. Even traders who think they have a plan often stumble when it comes to risk. The second reason many lose money is simple. They risk too much on each trade. In the excitement of chasing profits, it is common to put half of a trading account into a single stock. It feels logical, bigger position, bigger win. But the flip side is devastating. One wrong move can wipe out weeks or months of progress. The principle of survival in markets is simple. Never risk what you cannot afford to lose. Risk management tools exist for a reason, yet too many traders ignore them. The most important of these is the stop-loss order, a mechanism that limits how much money is lost on a single trade. Professionals place stop-losses religiously, while beginners often avoid them, thinking the stock will bounce back. But markets are merciless. A position that was supposed to recover can sink lower and lower until the account balance looks like a desert. Leverage makes the trap even more dangerous. Many brokers offer the ability to borrow money to trade bigger positions. New traders see this as a shortcut to wealth. Yet leverage is a double-edged sword. A small move against a leveraged position can cause catastrophic losses in seconds. What was supposed to be a dream of multiplying profits becomes a nightmare of liquidation. Traders discover too late that leverage without discipline is like giving a child a loaded weapon. The psychological toll of poor risk management is immense. Imagine watching your savings shrink 30% in a single day because of one reckless trade. The panic sets in, clouding judgment. Traders begin chasing losses, doubling down in desperation, which often makes the damage even worse. Instead of cutting losses quickly and preserving capital, they gamble bigger, telling themselves they can recover. This is not trading anymore. It is emotional self-destruction. True professionals understand that capital preservation is victory. Making money comes later. The goal in the early stages is survival. Risking no more than 1 or 2% of total capital per trade, setting disciplined stop losses, and never letting emotions override protective rules are the foundations of longevity. Without risk management, even the best trading strategy will eventually fail. Stage 2 drives home the lesson. The difference between lasting in the market and burning out fast is not luck or timing. It is strict, unwavering discipline in managing risk. The third major reason traders lose money is overtrading. At first, it looks like dedication. People sit in front of their screens for hours, clicking buy and sell endlessly, convinced that the more they trade, the more they will earn. In reality, this habit drains accounts slowly. Every transaction carries costs, spreads, commissions, slippage. These hidden cuts add up until profits vanish. Overtrading is not productivity. It is self-sabotage disguised as effort. Why do traders overtrade? Often, it comes from boredom or restlessness. Financial markets move in cycles, and sometimes they are quiet for days. Instead of waiting for a high-probability setup, impatient traders jump into mediocre trades just to feel active. The need to do something pushes them into unnecessary risks. But the best traders know patience is money. Doing nothing is often more profitable than forcing trades that have no clear edge. Another root of overtrading is the illusion of recovery. After a losing trade, many believe the next trade must be the one that makes it back. They enter again too soon, with too much size, chasing the loss. One loss turns into 5, 5 turn into 10. Before long, the account balance has cratered. Professionals break this cycle by following strict rules. Never revenge trade, and always step away after hitting a daily limit of losses. Overtrading is also fueled by dopamine. Each executed trade releases a psychological thrill, even before profits or losses are known. It feels like pulling a slot machine lever, and the brain gets hooked. This is how trading shifts from a calculated profession into gambling. Recognizing this addiction is key. Journaling trades, tracking performance, and reviewing statistics can expose just how often overtrading destroys results compared to well-timed entries. The antidote is structure. The most successful traders often set strict daily trade limits and commit to only entering when all conditions of their plan align. They build watch lists, use alerts, and wait. Overtrading drains both accounts and energy, leaving traders exhausted and discouraged. Stage 3 proves that in markets, less can truly be more. Mastery is not about how many times you click the button, but how precise and disciplined you are in choosing when to act. The fourth major reason traders lose money is emotions taking control of decisions. Markets move fast, and the brain responds with adrenaline and fear. Without a plan, traders act on instinct rather than logic. Buying too high because of excitement or selling too low because of panic is a direct result of emotion overriding strategy. Every profitable trader learns that discipline, not emotion, must sit in the driver's seat. One of the strongest emotions is fear of missing out, often called FOMO. A stock or index surges higher, social media explodes with hype, and the trader rushes to buy late. By the time they enter, momentum slows and losses follow. FOMO convinces people that opportunities are rare, but in reality, markets create setups every day. The cure is patience and the belief that missing one trade does not mean missing success. Another damaging emotion is fear itself during downturns. Traders often see red on their screens and panic sell, even when the market is only making a temporary pullback. They abandon their plan and lock in losses, only to watch the price recover shortly after. This cycle of fear-driven selling erodes accounts. Professional traders accept that drawdowns are part of the game, and they trust their risk management instead of emotions. Then comes hope and stubbornness. Traders hold losing positions far too long, hoping the price will return to their entry. Instead of cutting a loss quickly, they let it grow larger and larger. Hope becomes denial, and denial becomes destruction. Markets punish those who refuse to admit they are wrong. Successful traders practice humility. They accept small losses quickly to preserve capital for the next opportunity. The solution to emotional trading is building habits that replace feelings with structure. This means following a written plan, using stop losses, journaling trades, and even stepping away when emotions rise. Emotional mastery separates the amateurs from the professionals. Stage 4 makes one truth clear. The market does not reward feelings, it rewards discipline. Only by controlling emotions can traders hope to build lasting success. The final major reason traders lose money is chasing overhyped stocks. These are the hot picks everyone talks about on social media or the evening news. They rise quickly because of buzz, but often without solid fundamentals behind them. Traders jump in expecting endless gains, but markets usually punish late entries into hype-driven moves. By the time most people hear about it, the price is already inflated. The psychology behind hype is powerful. When friends, influencers, or headlines all point to the same stock, it creates a false sense of certainty. Traders believe, everyone else is making money, I must too. But what usually happens is that insiders and early buyers quietly sell into the excitement while latecomers carry the losses. This cycle repeats with every bubble, from dot-coms to meme stocks. The danger is not only financial, but also mental. Losing money in a hyped stock can damage confidence and push traders into reckless revenge trading to win it back. They start doubling down on the next trendy pick, ignoring risk rules, and the spiral deepens. The market punishes herd behavior, teaching over and over that discipline matters more than excitement. The solution is to step back and ask, am I buying this stock because it is truly undervalued or because everyone is shouting about it? Smart traders rely on research, fundamentals, and technical setups instead of noise. If the hype aligns with a solid strategy, maybe it is worth the risk, but blindly following trends without analysis is like gambling, not trading. To close, Overhyped stocks symbolize all the mistakes we covered in earlier stages: lack of strategy, weak risk management, overtrading, and emotional decision-making. They lure traders with the promise of fast money, but often leave them with regret. Avoiding the hype requires patience, discipline, and trust in your own process. That is how traders move from chasing illusions to building consistent, long-term success in the markets. This is the end of that story. Now tell me in the comments, what's your story? I'll read out the most interesting ones in the next video. Do not forget to hit a like button and subscribe. See you. This is the extraordinary journey of Carrie Edwards, a Virginia woman who won $150,000 with Powerball numbers suggested by ChatGPT. Before we continue, please subscribe, hit a like button, or leave a comment below. Thank you. Carrie Edwards was sitting at her kitchen table in Virginia on a quiet evening when she typed into her laptop. Life had been heavy since losing her husband, and she often used digital tools to occupy her mind. On that day, she leaned back, smiled faintly, and asked, "ChatGPT, talk to me. Do you have numbers for me?" She described later that it was not about believing the system could see the future, but rather about interacting with something that felt alive in its own way. The numbers came across her screen as plain digits, nothing special, yet they carried a sense of possibility. She wrote them down carefully on a slip of paper and set it aside. To Carrie, it felt like playing along with fate, like tossing a coin into a fountain. She did not think she would win, but there was comfort in the simple ritual of choosing numbers with the help of a machine that had already become part of daily life for millions. Later that evening, she remembered the folded slip of paper. She drove to a local convenience store, the kind with bright lights and worn linoleum floors, and purchased her Powerball ticket. The cashier, half amused, asked if she felt lucky. Carrie only laughed softly and replied that these were AI numbers. Neither of them thought much of it in that moment, yet the ticket represented something more than chance. For Carrie, it was a bridge between grief, hope, and the possibility of something unexpected. As she walked out of the store, she thought about how life had shifted since her husband's passing. She missed the sense of security and partnership that had once defined her days. Holding the ticket gave her a small spark of excitement, the same kind she had not felt in a long while. It was less about winning and more about the act of daring to dream again, even in something as improbable as a lottery. That night, she placed the ticket by her nightstand and fell asleep thinking about what her husband might say. He had always reminded her that hope itself was worth holding on to, even in uncertain times. The numbers chosen by a machine became part of that hope, a reminder that sometimes light can be found in unusual places. A few days passed, and Carrie almost forgot about the ticket. It was a normal morning when her phone buzzed with a notification from the state lottery app. She tapped the screen absent-mindedly, not expecting anything more than the usual disappointment. Then her heart stopped as she realized her numbers matched 4 out of 5, along with the Powerball. For a few moments, she thought it must be an error. She checked the ticket against the winning numbers again and again. The reality sank in slowly. She had just won $150,000. Shock, disbelief, and laughter all mixed together as she covered her mouth with her hand. She whispered to herself, "This can't be real." Carrie called her sister immediately. Her voice trembled as she tried to explain. Her sister at first thought she was joking, but quickly realized the truth. Together they cried and laughed, the sound carrying across the phone line. It was not just about the money. It was about the strange twist of fate, about how grief and chance had collided in a way no one could have imagined. She sat down at her kitchen table again, staring at the slip of paper where she had written the numbers. The folded sheet suddenly seemed sacred. In her mind, it was not the machine that had predicted her future, but rather a small miracle that had chosen to appear through technology. Later that day, she received official confirmation from the lottery office. The reality was undeniable. She was holding a winning ticket worth $150,000. Carrie thought of it as a divine windfall, a blessing given to her in a moment when she most needed to believe that good things could still happen. As the initial excitement calmed, Carrie began thinking about what to do with the prize. Many people would dream of vacations, cars, or even paying off debts, but her heart moved in a different direction. She knew immediately that the money was not hers to keep. She decided to donate every cent. Three organizations came to mind almost instantly: the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, Shalom Farms, and the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration. Each one represented part of her personal journey and her late husband's memory. The Navy Marine Corps Relief Society had supported families like hers for generations, providing aid to service members and their loved ones. Carrie wanted to honor the values of duty and sacrifice that had shaped her life. Shalom Farms, a nonprofit dedicated to fighting food insecurity, spoke to her belief in community and nourishment. She thought of families in her town who struggled to put food on the table, and she wanted her windfall to fill their plates. The Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration was closest to her heart. Her husband had passed away from that cruel disease, and she wanted to fund research that could one day spare others from the same loss. For her, giving the money away was not a sacrifice, but a fulfillment of purpose. Carrie's story spread quickly across the country, capturing people's imagination. Headlines focused on the idea of AI predicting lottery numbers, but experts rushed to remind the public that this was not possible. The machine had no power to foresee the future. It simply generated numbers. Still, her story tapped into a growing fascination with technology and chance. People began sharing their own experiments, some using apps, others writing algorithms. A few even claimed small wins, though none came close to Carrie's $150,000. Stories surfaced about a Thai man who once said he used AI to win a modest local prize, and Italian students who designed an algorithm to test patterns in lottery draws. These tales added to the sense that perhaps technology could reveal hidden cracks in systems built on randomness. Experts stressed, however, that the mathematics of lotteries leave little room for such shortcuts. The odds remain astronomical, and the systems are designed to favor the organizers, not the players. AI can create patterns, but it cannot change probability. Carrie herself reinforced this message. In interviews, she explained that she did not believe the machine predicted anything. She saw her win as pure chance, but chance with a purpose. To her, it was not about gaming the system, but about receiving a blessing she could share. As the weeks passed, Carrie became less a lottery winner and more a symbol of generosity. People admired her for giving everything away instead of clinging to the money. Her story reminded many that the real power of luck is in how it is used. She often spoke about her husband, saying that he had taught her to see blessings not as possessions, but as responsibilities. The prize was simply an opportunity to continue living by that principle. Community leaders praised her decision. Nonprofits publicly thanked her, saying her gift would make an immediate difference in the lives of struggling families and patients fighting disease. In that sense, the money multiplied far beyond its original value. For Carrie, the lesson was clear: technology, chance, and human choice intersected to create a story larger than herself. The AI gave her numbers, the lottery provided luck, but her heart determined the legacy of the prize. She described it best when she said, "I have been so blessed, and I want this to be an example of how other people, when they are blessed, can bless others." The story of Carrie Edwards is not about predicting numbers. It is about hope, generosity, and the choice to transform fortune into lasting good. This is the end of that story. Now tell me in the comments, what's your story? I'll read out the most interesting ones in the next video. Do not forget to hit a like button and subscribe. See you.